Hey, product people, it's Mike with Product Collective. And today we're going to talk a little bit about data and how we can use data to make better product decisions. But I want to remind everybody, qualitative data is data too. Sometimes when we talk about using data and being data informed and data obsessed, all we seem to talk about are reports and analytics. And look, that stuff is great. That should absolutely be a part of the data that we're using to make better product decisions. But today I want to focus on qualitative data, because quantitative data can give you the what, right? We could look at an analytics report and find all the data we want right in front of us. The numbers don't lie, right? We could review what the numbers say, but here's the thing. The numbers don't tell a story. The numbers might be whatever they are, but they're not giving us the why. We need to know the why behind those numbers. So I love qualitative data. Qualitative data can come in many forms though. And there are things that I believe you should do when it comes to qualitative data. And there's things that you should not do. And maybe that's where we'll start. What I want to do is I want to cut to a video that was from Richard White. At the time, he was CEO of UserVoice, and he spoke at Industry, the product conference. And in his talk, there was a part of his talk where he talked about not only qualitative data, but one thing that you shouldn't do when it comes to qualitative data. And before I give up too much here, why don't we cut right to the clip of Richard White speaking at Industry, the product conference.
The game of telephone, right? Which is someone says something and eventually it goes around the circle and something very different comes out the other end. That's essentially what you do when you ask all your salespeople and support people, hey, what do you think we should build next, right? And so the biggest problem is you're getting kind of lossy feedback, right? Because they only remember the last thing. But really what happens is you go to ask the support people, and support's actually a great, a great source of feedback, right? I think if you saw Sabrina's talk yesterday, support folks, even more than sales, are really incented to try to make sure that the product is good and that product managers get all the right feedback. And so they have the best intentions, and you go to them and say, hey, what do you think we should do? And, invariably what happens is the sales guy shows up and says, that's great, whatever, I just lost this deal because we didn't have this feature. So then the support team gets kind of sad, and you end up kind of listening to the sales team anyways, right? So the telephone method kind of sucks.
Okay, so the first piece of advice, we'll start with things not to do when it comes to qualitative data, okay? The first piece of advice, at least coming from Richard White back at Industry, was don't play the telephone game. Don't just go to your sales team or your customer success team and say, what do customers want? What are the features that they're asking for? What do they actually want? Make no mistake, these teams are great. We should absolutely involve sales and involve customer success, and vice versa. Hopefully they're involving us in the processes that they're going through as well. But part of your process of collecting qualitative data isn't simply asking these teams what they want. It's collaborating with these teams to be in front of customers so you yourself can hear it right from the customer's mouth. You can understand the context. Look, I've been on the product side. I've been on the sales side, right? So I've seen when a product team member will ask a salesperson, the salesperson says, yeah, look, I didn't close that deal because we didn't have feature XYZ. That's what we need. We need feature XYZ. And maybe that is what the customer told the salesperson was the reason why they didn't move forward with the deal, but it's just an easy excuse, right? It's an easy thing to say to get that salesperson off your back for a reason why you didn't make a decision to buy maybe $100,000 piece of software. And so to the salesperson, that's what they heard. So they're going to tell you that, but that doesn't necessarily give you the full story. So collaborate with your sales team, collaborate with your customer success team, make sure that you could get in front of customers yourselves. The second thing to not do is don't be overly reliant on the loudest voices. I can't tell you how many times I've been a part of product teams where so many of the recommendations that we get for these product features, it's coming from the same few people. And maybe they're great customers, but they are just the loudest customers. Just because they're a great customer doesn't mean that they represent your entire customer base. And sometimes it's the quiet people that have the most to say. I'll never forget, I also teach an undergraduate class at Case Western Reserve University. It's the first undergraduate class on product management that they've ever had. So pretty cool to be able to teach that. And I remember at the end of the year one time, I went around and asked students, what did you learn from this class? And you know how it goes with college students. There are some that never say a word the entire semester. There are some that are always raising their hands. And that's nice to see. But at the end, I asked, what did you get out of the class? And the kids that always raise their hands, they gave me their answers. But one of the students never raised his hand all year. He actually was the one that had the most insightful thing to say. I remember him saying, product, I used to think product management was like project management, but now I know they're not the same at all, because projects start and end. A product, if all goes well, it never dies. So insightful. I mean, we all know this as product people, but for that student, it was so insightful. I never would have known, though, that it was going to come from him, because he never spoke pretty much all semester. So sometimes the people that don't often speak up, that we don't often hear from, they have really great things to say. We need to be getting to those customers too. The third thing I'll share to not do is don't forget to validate what you find. You're going to get great feedback, I'm sure, but we also need to cross-check it. We need to validate it. What we hear from a couple different customers, we have to take it with a grain of salt first and constantly validate our information. So, okay, 3 things to not do. What are 3 things that we should do when it comes to qualitative data? The one recommendation I'll make is to segment feedback by persona or jobs to be done, whatever way you're using within your company to be smarter about what your customers need. Try to segment the feedback accordingly. So again, if you're using jobs to be done, great, segment it by job. If you're using user personas, great, segment it by persona. What's important is that, if you're getting all this qualitative feedback, it's not just one bucket of information. You start to segment it. And it leads to the next recommendation, which is look for patterns and themes. Once it's segmented appropriately, you might be able to start to see real clear segments or rather patterns and themes that you could then start to translate this feedback and turn it into actionable data. And the other recommendation I'll give you is just make sure you're collecting it in a variety of ways from a variety of customers. You want to have diverse thoughts, collect it from diverse audiences. Remember, you're probably not serving one specific type of customer. It's probably going to range. So make sure that you're collecting it from a variety of different customers, variety of different use cases, but also in a variety of different ways. So what does that mean? It means not just one-on-one interviews. I love one-on-one interviews, by the way. It's definitely a way to find rich information, but maybe there are other ways that you could collect qualitative data. It could be focus groups. I don't like relying on only focus groups because there could be groupthink, but the point is try to find different ways that you can collect qualitative feedback, because it's going to start to allow you to see, maybe I'm getting certain types of feedback from one different way and a different kind of feedback from another way. Going back to that validate, we can now cross-validate, go back to maybe it's a customer that you heard something from in a focus group. You could go back to that customer and try to validate it with a one-on-one conversation. So that is, just my thoughts on what it takes to use qualitative data to make better decisions, some things not to do, some things to do, but above everything, take action. Okay, none of this matters. All the work you're going to put in, all the feedback that you're getting, none of it will really matter unless you take action. So once you have all this data, once you and your team have deciphered, the insights from all of this data, do something with it. Take action. In fact, I would recommend making a goal to start taking small steps of action right away. Maybe you say within the first 30 days, we're going to find something that we can do right away to start to put this into practice. But hopefully, a lot of this will lead to maybe new features, maybe brand new products. That might take some time, but no matter what, make sure you are taking action with all the feedback you're getting. So I hope this is helpful. I hope that you now can feel a little bit more confident about using qualitative data to make better product decisions. And I'll see you in the next video.